Kody Brown just got absolutely wrecked by his own brother on national television, and let's be honest, it was long overdue. Michael Brown, Kody's much younger sibling, showed up to help with the move into the new McMansion and somehow ended up delivering the harshest dose of reality we've seen all season. And it all started with two simple words: your kids. That's it. That was all it took to strip away the polished veneer and reveal the decay beneath Kody's whole parenting philosophy. Michael overheard Kody refer to Christine's kids as her kids, and he was not going to let that pass. He swiveled toward his brother, stared him straight in the face, and said, "Your kids, Kody. Your kids." The ensuing silence? Earplug-worthy. Because right there, in that instant, everyone viewing at last realized what Kody's own kids have known for years. This man does not consider himself a father to anyone who does not reside in Robyn's household. He's emotionally separated from the children he brought up with Christine, Janelle, and Meri. He's established a strict line in the sand, and Robyn's kids alone can stay on his side of it. The rest are her kids now, Christine's responsibility, Janelle's problem, Meri's burden, but never ever his. Michael didn't let up either. He kept pressing, kept digging, poking holes through every flimsy excuse Kody threw his way. Why move into an even bigger mansion when 3/4 of your family has left? Why talk about Christine's kids like they're strangers? Why does every word that comes out of your mouth ring with victim complex mixed in with self-righteousness? And, of course, Kody didn't have anything substantial to say, only deflections, excuses, and more evidence that he's totally lost the plot. But the "your kids" moment was merely the ignition. Michael topped it off with revelation after revelation, from his own denial of plural marriage to starkly honest comparisons between their father's authentic charisma and Kody's seething, self-pitying rage. He saw Kody going through the motions for the cameras, sweating profusely, whining for attention like a puppy. And that look on Michael's face spoke volumes: disappointment, disgust, incredulity. This is what the alleged patriarch has reduced himself to, a man who won't even acknowledge his own children, a husband whose wife will not put her hand on him in public, a father who's burned every bridge and yet still fancies himself the hero of this tale. And the best part? Kody had no idea how pathetic he appeared. He believed it was just another moving day, another martyr moment, another opportunity to complain about how bad life has been since his wives quit worshipping him. Instead, he was hit with the truth he's been avoiding for years, all because his brother finally dared to say what everyone else was too scared to say: "Your kids, Kody. Your kids too." Let's set the stage, because context is everything. Kody and Robyn are relocating from their inaugural Flagstaff McMansion to an even larger, even more expensive one down the road. And who arrives to assist with the heavy hauling? Michael Brown, Kody's considerably younger brother, and seemingly the lone member of the clan willing to pose tough questions on camera. But first, let's discuss Kody's cringeworthy performance on this move. The guy's out here pretending like he's performing the most strenuous physical labor mankind has ever seen, sweating bullets, complaining about how stinky he is, more or less begging Robyn to ogle his masculinity, his hard work, and his sweaty, stinky body. Embarrassing. So embarrassing. And Robyn? She appears to be somewhere else she'd rather be. She is unimpressed by the perspiration, unfazed by the performance, just plainly uncomfortable as her husband desperately attempts to elicit some sort of response from her. This is significant later on because the entire first half of the episode is spent with Kody and Robyn telling us that she's just not a touchy-feely type of person, that she's shy, that she's always been this way. But anyone who's been watching since before knows that's complete fiction. Robyn had no problem being all over Kody when it was about rubbing it in her sister wives' faces. She didn't blink an eye to smirk at Christine in the boat-building challenge when Kody made the infamous 69 joke. She was very happy about making sure everyone was aware that she was the one he wanted most. But now that there's no competition anymore, now that she's won, monopolized Kody's time, his attention, and the family finances, now that she's got the checkmate and all the rest, suddenly she's too modest for public displays of affection. Suddenly, they're not lovers anymore. They're combat comrades. Now Kody's complaining that his so-called monogamous relationship is not providing him with enough physical intimacy, and Robyn's playing like she's never been the type of wife who loved to be touched. The entire spectacle smells of dysfunction. These two spent decades manipulating the demise of an entire family just to be alone with one another. And now that they've precisely what they achieved their goal for, neither one of them appears at all satisfied. Kody out here acting out masculinity for a wife who refuses even to look at him, and Robyn acting as if she's always been demure and reserved, when the old tapes reveal a very different scenario. And Michael standing there, assisting them moving into yet another oversized mansion, observing this odd act play out. This new beginning is how they're escaping the specters of a family that they themselves killed. But here's the truth, the family wasn't broken in that house. It was already shattered long before the moving trucks arrived. Christine walked away years ago. Janelle checked out emotionally the day Kody Pass became Kody's obsession. Meri's been a ghost in this marriage for more than a decade. A new home doesn't take away any of that. It simply provides Kody and Robyn with an even larger platform for their tragic, dysfunctional drama. So Michael, observing all of this strange drama, at last asks the question that each and every viewer at home has been screaming at their television sets for weeks. Why are you relocating? And most importantly, why are you moving to an even larger, even more costly mansion when your family just exploded? That's the question that cuts through all of Kody's scripted talking points regarding leaving the memories behind and fresh starts. Yes, perhaps he doesn't want to have to drive past Christine's old home. Perhaps Janelle's rental reminds him of all that went up in flames. Perhaps the community feels haunted by his own broken promises. Fine, understandable, though of course it is all his fault. But that does not still account for why the solution is to move up into an even bigger house with a mortgage that, as Janelle herself joked on social media, made her do a double take. It doesn't address why the house Meri and Janelle assisted in financing now finds itself merged into an investment with only Kody and Robyn's names on it. It doesn't address why you require additional square footage when 3/4 of your household left. Kody's answer? The same old script he's been spouting all season. It's too painful here. The memories hurt too much. We need a new start. Robyn's had a revelation about Kody Pass. We're done with that chapter. But none of it holds water. None of it justifies the financial leap. None of it touches the real issue, that this entire move looks suspiciously like Kody and Robyn cashing out the family's assets and pocketing the profits for themselves. And Michael's not buying a word of it. You can tell by looking at him. He's gotten the official version, the prettied-up version they're giving the cameras, but he knows his brother better than that. He's seen this cycle repeat itself for years. It's like clockwork. Every 5 years, Kody gets antsy, decides the family needs a new beginning, and moves everyone in the interest of rebirth. But this isn't rebirth. This is Kody running, again, from accountability. Only this time, there's no one left to drag with him. Christine's in Utah, living her best life with David. Janelle's busy planning her farm and spending time with her kids down in North Carolina. Meri's cautiously dipping her toes into the dating world again, finally realizing she doesn't have to tolerate being called a friend instead of a wife. The only one who remains circling Kody is Robyn, and judging from the battle buddies' remark and that telling absence of physical affection, even she is questioning the deal. So Michael poses the obvious question, why are you moving? But what he's really saying is, why are you pretending this is about healing when it looks a whole lot like you're just staging your next act? Why play the victim when you're the one who blew everything up? Why should anyone believe you're starting fresh when you haven't owned a single thing you've done? And then it happens, the moment that changes everything. The moment that makes Michael Brown the most valuable voice throughout this whole series. Kody's meandering, jumping from the move to Christine to how difficult all of this has been apparently for him. And then he blandly calls Christine's kids her kids, like they are some package set she bought on Amazon, as if he wasn't responsible for bringing them into the world. Michael does not hesitate. He stares his brother right between the eyes and declares, "Your kids? Your kids too, Kody." The correction hits like a grenade hurled squarely into the center of the conversation, because in that single instant, Michael called out the most destructive habit in Kody's entire narrative of fatherhood. This man actually regards his children as belonging to their mothers. He thinks fatherhood is something you can punch out once a marriage dissolves, that children are appendages of their mom's decision, and if the mom is gone, those children cease being his problem. That's his modus operandi, and Michael laid it bare in 2 words. Kody attempts to brush it off, muddles through a hasty, embarrassing correction, "Oh yeah, my kids," and then continues speaking as if his whole worldview hasn't just been exposed on television. But it's too late. The harm has been done. Everyone watching knows it. A father has just been corrected by his own brother for not claiming his children. And everyone gets it that this isn't a slip of the tongue, it's the way Kody really thinks. The worst thing? None of this is new. He's been doing it for years. When he speaks of Robyn's children, it's always my children. My children need this. My children are entitled to that. My children are suffering because their siblings rejected them. But where Christine's 6 children are concerned, the ones he raised from infancy, the ones who referred to him as dad for years, suddenly become her kids, Christine's kids, the ones she abducted when she departed. It's dehumanizing. It's cold. It's the sort of conditional love that shatters a child's sense of security. Because what Kody's words actually convey is that his love and his sense of self as a father entirely hinge on whether the mother complies with him. If you're a compliant wife, quiet, faithful, obedient, your children get to be his children as well. But if you assert yourself, if you expect respect or happen to leave, those children immediately cease being part of his group. They become your albatross. Michael noticed and spoke out about it. And Kody's response? Pretend that it never occurred. Keep speaking. Because to admit that correction would be to admit what he's been keeping hidden for years, that he's been a bad father to the majority of his children. That his priorities are flipped upside down. That Robyn's children are favored because they're younger or weaker, they're favored because they're Robyn's. And Kody will never own up to it. Not in public. Perhaps not even to himself. Let's discuss the pattern, because the minute Michael brought it to our attention, you can't help but notice it anymore. Kody has spent years building a hierarchy by way of only words. The manner in which he speaks of his children reveals precisely where his allegiance lies. When they're Robyn's children, it's always my kids, but when it's the ones he had with Christine, Janelle, or Meri, it's their children. Her children. Christine's children. And none of it is unintentional. Every time Kody speaks, he incriminates himself. Watch any episode from the previous couple of seasons. Actually listen to the way he speaks about family. It's always the same routine. I want my children to return to the house with their grandchildren. My children are suffering because their siblings will not come to visit. My children are worth better than this. And each and every time, he's referring to Robyn's 5 kids. Each and every time, he focuses on their feelings, their hurt, and their take on this family conflict. Meanwhile, Christine's kids, Janelle's kids, and Meri's son all get grouped together into this separate category, the ones who chose their mothers over him, the ones who supposedly wronged him by refusing to play along with his control narrative. The double standard is unbelievable. Truly. Because Kody will be sitting there with a poker face, crying about how unfortunate Robyn's children are that the family broke apart, and accepting no responsibility for the fact that those relationships dissolved in the first place. He never admits that his older children saw him devote all of his time, energy, and resources to Robyn's family, and their mothers were struggling to get by on their own. He never acknowledges that his overt favoritism was so blatant and so heartless that it wiped out any possibility of harmony between the siblings. And what stings most? Robyn's children are not innocent victims in this dynamic either. They've profited hugely from the favoritism. They inherited the good house. They inherited the dad who was really there. They had family resources diverted directly into their way of life when Janelle was living in a rental and Christine was barely getting by in a duplex. But rather than acknowledging that privilege, rather than seeing how well off their lives were in relation to their half-siblings, they resort to the same victim mentality as their parents. And Kody plays right along. He portrays Robyn's kids as the real victims of this broken family, as if they were the ones who were left behind. As if they're the ones who lost it all. when in fact, it's exactly the opposite. Robyn's children received everything: the stay-at-home dad, the financial stability, the constant affirmation, and unlimited reassurance that they are most important. The only thing that they didn't receive was accountability for the way that favoritism destroyed everyone else. So when Michael jumps in and rebukes Kody for saying her kids rather than your kids, what he's actually doing is highlighting years of this linguistic separation. He's revealing how Kody has mentally divided his family into two groups: the children who belong to him and those who belong to their mothers. That split, that refusal to acknowledge fatherhood as shared, is precisely the reason Kody Brown is estranged from almost all his grown kids today. Because you can't call yourself the patriarch when you only acknowledge half your family. But Michael wasn't finished hurling truth bombs that day. Following the criticism of Kody's parenting language, the subject came around to plural marriage itself, and Michael made his position crystal clear. He has no desire to be involved with it. He's not living it. He's not interested in it. He's witnessed enough polygamous marriages fall apart to understand that the system's faulty, and he doesn't even need to place the blame squarely on Kody's shoulders to arrive at that determination. Translation: polygamy fails. And even being brought up in it wasn't enough to convince Michael that it was worth living. That's a giant statement, because it completely cuts against everything Kody's been teaching for 20 years. His whole brand has always rested on the assertion that plural marriage is godly, natural, and the highest form of family, if only all concerned would get out of being selfish or jealous. All marital failures he's attributed to people. Christine wasn't humble enough. Janelle wasn't submissive enough. Meri wasn't available enough. And Robyn? She's the only one who got it right, except now there's Michael, brought up in the same exact faith, in the same house, with the same teachings and observing the same so-called example of plural marriage under their dad, and his conclusion couldn't be clearer. No thanks. Not interested. Saw too many catastrophes to ever believe in it, and what makes it so effective is that Michael doesn't even present it as a complaint against Kody. He doesn't have to. The proof is in the pudding. Which, to be fair, is very nice of him, because the catastrophe that is Kody's family would be enough to drive anyone away from polygamy for good. Then Michael takes it a step further with an observation that's even more telling. He begins to speak of their father, how women were attracted to him because he was masculine. The type of man who could rope cattle, repair anything, and yet have folks laugh. He was rugged, able, magnetic, and you can almost hear the subtext yelling through Michael's narrative. Their dad had something Kody doesn't. Their father had real charisma, the sort of power and presence that made women desperate to be in his family. Kody, on the other hand, has none of it. What he does have, however, is insecurity, desperation, and a victim complex the size of Arizona. Even Meri mentioned it earlier this season. She hasn't seen the charismatic, fun Kody in years. The man who would joke and laugh and include everyone else has been replaced by someone bitter, angry, and always offended. He finds betrayal in every direction but never will take blame for anything. And when Meri, a woman who went a full decade attempting to win Kody's favor back, acknowledges that change is real, it's no longer arguable. Kody evolved. He turned into an entirely different individual from the individual who founded this family. Michael's comparison to their father hurts because it emphasizes all that Kody doesn't have. Their dad clearly had genuine traits that pulled people in: bravery, ability, charisma. Kody's arsenal is manipulation, control, and love bombing. Their father created something which, for better or worse, functioned for decades. Kody constructed a hierarchy masquerading as a family, and then played innocent when the women at the bottom finally took a stand. And that Michael is able to see it so obviously, describe it so specifically, while Kody is completely oblivious, speaks volumes to why this family fell apart. Kody lost the plot years ago. He just doesn't know it yet. But then Kody steers the conversation somewhere even weirder and much worse. He begins discussing what allegedly made their father so appealing to so many women. And he somehow manages to turn that into some strange, tone-deaf observation about Janelle's mother, a topic no one requested and no one desired. Kody begins to ramble on about how women were attracted to his dad due to raw, animalistic attraction, and then, suddenly, he mentions Cheryl, Janelle's mom, and suggests that what her relationship was with their dad was not love, but rather physical attraction. Let it set in. Kody Brown essentially suggested, on television, that his former mother-in-law did not even love his dad, that Cheryl had married Wynn Brown merely because she was physically attracted to him, not due to faith or values or emotional attachment, but because, seemingly, she couldn't help herself over his rugged, cowboy-official pheromone-emitting, cattle-wrangling whatever Kody's peddling this time. It's outrageously wrong on every level. To begin with, Cheryl is Janelle's mother, Janelle, the lady who was by Kody's side for 3 decades. The lady who bore him 6 children. The woman who has survived the bankruptcies, the perpetual relocation, and the pain of seeing him go head over heels for Robyn while further marginalizing her. And now Kody's disrespecting her mom by making her marriage out to be merely physical attraction, by implying that she didn't really love Wynn, she merely wanted to sleep with him. The disrespect is breathtaking, and it absolutely encapsulates how Kody perceives women in general. He actually believes women are motivated by physical desire first, love and loyalty second. He's taking his own superficial conception of relationships and applying it to everyone else. Because let's be real, we all know what actually attracted Kody to Robyn. It wasn't her intelligence, or her spiritual richness, or her emotional maturity. It was the attention, the affirmation, the way she restored his masculinity when his other wives cut off feeding that ego. He's even told it himself. In a previous season, Kody confessed that after one of Robyn's massages, he knew his love language was physical touch, that it woke him up in a way the other wives no longer did. After all that notorious massage by Robyn, that's when Kody experienced his so-called great revelation. So naturally, to him, it makes complete sense that Cheryl desired Wynn only for his body. Naturally, he would simplify multifaceted human relationships into something strictly animal-like. That's just the way his brain is wired. Kody simply can't get his head around the concept that women may be starved for emotional connection, mutual respect, shared intellect, or actual partnership. For him, it all comes down to physical desire, to whether or not a woman will stroke his ego. And the dig against Janelle here is subtle but undeniable. He's essentially suggesting that she is descended from a generation of women who use men for sex rather than love. He's attempting to justify why Janelle never worshipped him like Robyn does. Why she always reserved part of herself for herself. Why she was able to walk away from him without imploding. In Kody's sickening rationale, Janelle is like her mom, attracted to the prospect of a man but unable to show true, enduring love. It's repulsive. It's insulting. And it beautifully reveals how little Kody has ever respected the women he wedded. But before you can imagine that Kody couldn't possibly become any more revolting, he utters one of his most self-serving remarks ever. He begins discussing Christine and David's relationship, and somehow, with a straight face, informs us that if Christine truly loves David, she must get over the past. She must cease to be angry. She must release her resentment. Because somehow, in Kody's universe, you can't be truly happy in a new relationship unless you've obliterated all memories of being mistreated in the previous one. Let's break down just how ludicrous that is from Kody Brown. This is a man who continues to bring up Christine's 15-year-old remark about hating polygamy in almost every discussion of their failed marriage. 15 years. One remark. And he treats it like a lifelong betrayal that he's entitled to hold over her forever. This is the same man who still can't stop referencing Meri's catfishing scandal from nearly a decade ago. He's used that as justification for years, for why he couldn't love her, why he couldn't prioritize her, why their relationship was over long before he legally divorced her to marry Robyn. He never forgave it. Never got over it. Never gave Meri so much as an ounce of compassion for the way she fell for that deception, because she was alone. And Janelle? He can't even say her name without bringing back every imagined grievance of their whole marriage. She didn't stand up to him enough. She didn't stand up for Robyn enough. She took Christine's side. She didn't parent like he insisted. Kody has an imaginary scorecard of each time he feels he's been wronged by his wives, by his children, by anyone who ever stopped stroking his ego. And he'll hold on to those grudges until the day he dies. But Christine? Christine's the one who's told to let it go. She's the one who has to unlearn all those years of hearing that she wasn't thin enough, spiritual enough, patient enough, of being called too needy, too emotional, too difficult. She's supposed to forget that time she was called the basement wife. She's supposed to get over the agony of seeing Kody fall in love with Robyn right before her very eyes, while she was actually giving birth to his child. She's supposed to let go of a decade of gaslighting, manipulation, and emotional abandonment like nothing ever occurred. Because in Kody's opinion, if Christine's really happy now, that should all be irrelevant. She should just get over it, and the irony? It's positively poetic. Because the one individual in this whole family who hasn't moved past anything is Kody himself. He's totally stuck in a prison of his own bitterness, replaying every second he didn't receive the adoration or devotion he perceived he deserved. He's stuck on that old reel of perceived betrayals, while all the rest are making an effort to mend, but somehow he demands that everyone else, Christine, Janelle, Meri, be able to obtain perfect emotional understanding, to have zero resentment, to forgive immediately and just move on like nothing transpired. And all the while, Kody's the one still holding onto a scorebook, retelling history and labeling it growth. Now, let's get back to what's going on with Kody and Robyn in this move, because their dysfunction is staring us right in the face, and sincerely, it hurts to watch. Kody continues to say over and over again that he and Robyn have allegedly become battle buddies rather than lovers. Battle buddies, as if they're combatants in a foxhole together, fighting off the enemy troops of accountability and repercussions. And the so-called enemy? It's the consequence of their own decisions, of course, and they'd never willingly acknowledge it as such. Kody complaining that Robyn is no longer affectionate, essentially whining for a physical touch. He carries on the entire sweaty, smelly, exaggerated routine while lugging boxes around, puffing out his chest, hoping for Robyn to admire his machismo or at least recognize his effort. Robyn's response? Nothing. She simply stands there, looking uncomfortable, refusing to go along with whatever teary little act he's giving. Then, before our very eyes, they begin rewriting history. Suddenly Robyn's denying ever being a fan of public displays of affection, saying she's always been shy and demure, that anyone who's remembering otherwise must be crazy. Except, we all remember. We watched the previous seasons. We saw Robyn smirking at Christine during that boat-building competition when Kody made that inappropriate 69 comment. We saw her showing off her friendship with him, letting everyone know who his favorite actually was. We saw her reveling in the spotlight, rubbing her relationship in everyone else's faces whenever possible. But now? Now that no one remains to vie with, now that she's taken up all of Kody's time, energy, and resources, now she doesn't want to be touched. Now she's too demure for affection. Now they resemble less of a couple and more like roommates who happen to pray together. They destroyed a whole family to wind up here together, but unhappy. And still, Kody manages to play the victim. He's out here whining about how difficult it is to be a monogamous man who can't get enough attention from his wife. He's flirting, trying to seduce, but Robyn's just not having it. He even confessed his grand fantasy now is to have Robyn slap his rear end in public. That's what he desires. Reassurance his wife still finds him attractive. That's desperate. The entire scene is buyer's remorse, both of them. Robyn didn't want to be the lone wife. She wanted to be the premier wife. She liked being the one who got picked, the one who got the others jealous, the one who won. But now she's by herself with him, now that there's nobody else around to witness her victory lap. She seems totally uninterested in being his wife, actually. And Kody? Peace was not what he wanted. He wanted power. He wanted multiple women vying for his attention, making him feel important and wanted. Now he's wedged into a one-woman marriage with a woman who treats him more as a business associate than a spouse, and it's not providing the ego stroke he's hooked on. So they're both stuck in this hollowness, this performative marriage, faking fine as the cameras pick up on their unease in HD. In the meantime, let's consider the contrast, because as Kody and Robyn are mugging about awkward prayers and settling into their giant McMansion, the rest of the Brown family is living. Christine is thriving in North Carolina, and not the make-believe kind of thriving that occurs on television. Real thriving. She's creating a life her kids actually want to be a part of. Paydon had just completed his military service and was moving to North Carolina, not because Christine pleaded or guilt-tripped him, but because that's where his siblings are. That's where his nieces and nephews reside. That's where Janelle's establishing her farm. That's where the real Brown family is rebuilding itself, free of the poison of Kody's toxicity. They're chopping down Christmas trees together. They're having actual conversations about loss, about healing, about what's next after Garrison dies. They're helping each other get through major life transitions, in private, sincerely, without the cameras making them do it. And yes, Christine does become sentimental about her kids growing up and branching out to begin their own lives, but that's natural. That's what actual parenting is. That's what it's like to truly love your kids, to wish them to be happy even if their happiness isn't about you. And then contrast that with Kody standing in his new house next to Robyn and their children, all holding hands in a T4TV prayer circle, thanking the good Lord for blessing them in their new dwelling. The act is so transparent it's insulting. They're working overtime selling this image of a happy, devout family starting new. But there's no truth to it. There's no happiness. No bonding. Only Kody and Robyn faking that confining themselves in a larger home and stockpiling what's left of the family wealth is some sort of spiritual victory. Robyn even weeps, claiming they were a family in the former home. And it's like, no, you weren't. By the time that house was complete, the family had already dissolved. Janelle was in a rental. Christine had walked away entirely. Meri had checked out emotionally years before. The only ones who ever considered that house a home were Kody, Robyn, and their 5 children. The rest were either gone or holding down the days until they could be. But Kody and Robyn have to hold on to this story where they're victims, the devoted ones who remained, the ones left behind by all the others. So they put on this sob story goodbye to a house that never did reflect unity, go live in an even larger house they can't really afford, and then they want us to believe it's all about healing. In the meantime, the contrast couldn't be more extreme. Christine's children desire to live close to their family. Robyn's children must. Christine's building real community, based on love, support, and honesty. Kody and Robyn are constructing walls of solitude and calling it righteousness. And that's what makes this episode so insightful, not necessarily what Michael said, but what he could have pushed harder on. Because yes, calling out Kody for saying her kids instead of your kids was important. Yes, contrasting their father's actual charisma with Kody's bitterness stung. But there is a much larger problem that nobody's facing, and it's the one question that really answers why this family exploded. Where's the money? Seriously, what happened to the money that Janelle and Meri put into Robyn's first home? That house was the family heirloom. Everybody put in, everybody was supposed to gain. But when Kody and Robyn sold it and upgraded to an even bigger mansion, did they repay Janelle and Meri? Did they pay the family accounts? Or did they just carry that equity over into their brand new dream house and call it a blessing from God? Because that's not faith, that's theft. That's not a profound theological enigma regarding plural marriage, that's stealing other people's money and spending it for your own benefit. And what's really infuriating is no one's making Kody own up to it. Not the family. Not the producers. Not even the network. The financial exploitation simply gathers dust, untackled, while Kody acts as victim and Robyn complains about blessings. Janelle is already letting on she knows everything that went down. On Twitter, she mentioned seeing the new home and the numbers on the mortgage, and she was taken aback. Translation, she sees Kody and Robyn living large on money that was supposed to be half hers. And Coyote Pass. That property has been in progress for years now, excuses upon excuses, excuses to delays. They always say it's a matter of timing or the market or complex logistics. But the truth is simple, as long as Coyote Pass remains unresolved, Kody doesn't have to split a dime. He doesn't have to confront the financial reality of acknowledging the family is finished. He doesn't have to slice Janelle and Meri their fair portions. Holding on to that property in limbo is his final power play, his attempt to stage the family's continued existence on paper when everybody else is already long gone. The greatest question one Michael or anyone should be asking Kody is this: why do you not have a relationship with any of your grown children anymore? Not Christine's alone. Not Janelle's alone. Practically all of them. What did you do? What decisions did you make which made you so isolated from the very people you grew up with from birth? Because this is the thing, Kody continues to deflect. He continues to point fingers at the kids, accusing them of choosing their mothers. He insists they've been influenced by Christine's resentment or Janelle's infidelity. He portrays himself as the misunderstood victim every single time. But there is a point where all the relationships are broken, where all the children stand apart. You have to look at the denominator. And that denominator is Kody Brown. His affection is conditional. His loyalty is not. He only sees from his own point of view. He uses love and approval as weapons, as instruments to dominate, to control, to chastise. Michael barely scratched the surface with that "your kids" remark. He opened the doorway to the conversation that has had to occur for years. But anyone, has to cross it. Someone has to sit Kody down, take away the excuses and the cameras, and get him to confront what he's done. Not what was done to him, what he did. The relationships he ruined. The trust he destroyed. The family he offered on the altar of his ego and Robyn's insecurities. Michael Brown entered what should have been an easy moving day and, without even knowing it, was the most truthful person this whole franchise has ever known. With two simple words, "your kids," he revealed all that was broken in Kody's form of fatherhood and family. He called out the favoritism, the conditional love, the language that divides, the way Kody splits his own children into two categories, those whose mothers still worship him and those who don't. And the truth is, this reckoning was long overdue. Someone needed to finally look Kody in the eye and remind him, those aren't Christine's kids, or Janelle's kids, or Meri's kid. They're his. They've always been his. And the fact that he's emotionally and psychologically divorced himself from almost all of them tells us everything about who he is, and nothing about who they are. So what do you think? Was Michael too soft, or did he say exactly what needed to be said? Do you believe Robyn's last-minute assertion that she's never been an affectionate person? Or is that just another rewriting of history? And the biggest question of all, will Kody ever own up to the damage he's done? Or will he continue to rewrite the story, play the victim until there's nobody left to watch? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe behind TLC Sister Wives channel and hang in there, because the next video is on the way and believe me, you won't be able to make sense of what's coming next.